Welcome to the Pace Morby Show. Today we've got one of my heroes, somebody I've been looking up to for a very long time. His book is something that I share with people frequently. Mr. Chris Voss, FBI negotiator and all-around badass. He is so helpful in helping everybody that's in sales or even relationships in any real degree change their life, upgrade their life, and upgrade the way that they communicate with other people. Today we are welcoming him to the show, and we're going to jump into talking about how you, as a real estate investor or maybe somebody buying businesses, can use negotiations a little bit different than your competition. Mr. Chris Voss, how you doing today, brother?
All right, great, Pace. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Of course. Now, real estate investors are interesting because I think they believe that the number one strategy that they have walking into a homeowner's house or even be on the phone with them is giving them the best price possible. When you look across all types of businesses, is it always the price that wins, or is it something else that typically wins that negotiation?
Yeah, well, let's get away from the word always. Nothing is always. There is an accumulation of things. If you were going to go with always, there would always be an accumulation. I remember one time listening to a guy that owned the Washington Nationals baseball team talking about negotiating with players, and he said price is a term. So price is a term. Now there's going to be things that are going to lean them in one direction or another from the price. And one of the biggest things is going to be how they feel about you. And how they feel about you is going to be most determined by your demonstration of understanding of their emotional perspective. Now, when we were talking just before we came on the show, you said a lot of people in your audience are buying residential real estate from people that are in distressed situations. And you said there's almost always a fair amount of agony going on in their lives. Well, that's exactly what the people across from you want to hear. They want to know that you understand that, and you got to say it just like that. You can't be afraid of a negative emotion, because if you're afraid of it, then that means the more likely it's there, and the more likely it's the obstruction. Ryan Holiday had a book called "The Obstacle Is the Way." Well, the negative emotion is the way. Your recognition of it, your appreciation of it, your understanding of it. How do they know that you recognize it, you appreciate it, or you understand it? You call it out. And it would go something like this. I realize there's quite a bit of agony in your life right now. Now, that's going to hit the bullseye. And you want to use a word that's as strong as that. And most people will shy away from that because they think, well, if they don't have it, I've just injected it. Actually, the opposite is true. You can't inject emotions into people, either negative or positive. You can either amplify them or you can deactivate them. And the really counterintuitive thing about negative emotions is the straight observation of them is what deactivates them, not the denial. For example, if I were to say to you, I don't want you to think I'm going to be disrespectful. You expect me to be disrespectful and you're insulted because I just told you not to think that. And I've given you command. I've taken away your autonomy. So it's kind of a double whammy wrong with that. If simultaneously instead you would have said, what I'm going to say is going to sound disrespectful. That's not the denial. That's the prediction, the observation. Well, then it'll have less of an impact. And then they'll say to themselves, wow, this person's a straight shooter. So the more negative the emotion, the more negatively you want to characterize it because it's going to be accurate. And agony is a great word because there aren't very many talks, discussions, descriptions of emotional pain that's worse than that. I mean, that's a great word. I mean, I love that as a word. Mm-hmm. Now, the other is how are you gonna pose it to them? They're going to want to know you know. Like there's different ways to call out negative emotions. You can say, you sound angry. To me, that's a collaborative, tentative inquiry. I'm not 100% sure. I'm guessing you're probably angry. I'm inviting you to collaborate with me on this. Yeah. If I'm pretty sure you're angry, then I should say you're probably angry. It's because I should be. The awareness, I should be aware it's probably true. And if you expect me to know, or I want you to be impressed by the fact that I know, then you're going to need to say, I know you're in agony right now. I know you hate this. I know it's not what you planned for. It wasn't what you dreamed. Your dreams are being crushed right now. And I know you probably hate me because that's the reason I'm here talking to you right now. Those would all be incredibly perceptive, emotional intelligence, the display of emotional intelligence. If you were to roll all those together, that's actually what we refer to in the Black Swan group as an accusations audit. What are the lists of the negatives that are there or really likely to be there? And they just let me call them out. Not deny, not deny, but call them out. They either deactivate them or, interestingly enough, inoculate people from them. That's a crazy thing about this approach. It actually inoculates from negatives. Doesn't plant them. It deactivates them and inoculates them. And in that sort of situation, it's for you to approach it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been on appointments with younger guys that are getting into the business for the first time. And instead of using maybe, hey, you seem angry, or I understand you're maybe going through something, they'll say, kind of in an accusatory manner, they'll say something silly because I don't think they've developed the vernacular or the terminology properly. They'll say something like, why are you so angry? Oh my God. And then it makes the whole room so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I know that you have a knack and you had an obsession over emotional intelligence as a young guy, which is why you wanted to be a hostage negotiator in the first place. You thought it was going to be a cool thing. You went and volunteered. And I think that helped give some structure and obviously some credibility to the person who ended up helping you get into being a hostage negotiator. Are there things that people can do? Is it a course? Is it people I can be around? Is it role playing? How do I practice these things so that if I'm a young 21-year-old or 24-year-old and I haven't gone through enough life to actually have enough emotional intelligence, are there some steps or places that I can go and actually learn this stuff?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's a couple things I'd like to point out. I mean, anybody that's open to learning this, everybody's got the capacity to learn, but have they gone through enough life at some point in time? It doesn't matter how old you are and what your capacity to learn is. Like maybe at 19, you picked up a lot. Maybe at 65, you haven't picked up any. So are you open to learning it? Now, we're actually in the Black Swan group, of creating a community. So on our website, blackswanltd.com, and this is an initiative we're just launching this week because we've got a lot of training courses, and they're different great training courses. The two biggest cornerstones really for developing your emotional intelligence, and it's going to sound shameless on my part, and that doesn't mean it's not true. My book, Never Split the Difference, combined with the masterclass that I did on negotiating. Now, it doesn't matter which one you do first. What we found of people that are the real superstars, that they suddenly found that their brain was a sponge for this stuff and they can't get enough of it. And consequently, they're working miracles on a regular basis. They're moving mountains. The right phrase at the right time is a magic wand. They took the book and they read the book and they took the masterclass. Doesn't matter which one is first. I hear from them all the time, I read your book and it was great, but when I took the masterclass, it all came together. Or I took the masterclass and then when I read the book, it all came together. Now, the great thing about both those things, that they're not much money. If you don't have $22 for a book, then you just don't believe in yourself. And in fact, you do have $22 for a book. Are you going to take the time to read it? Are you going to take the time to get yourself better? Have you decided that since experience is the best teacher, it's going to be my only teacher? Well, that's a slow learner. That's where people will pass you by. But are you going to invest the time? Do you believe enough in your ability to learn and that you can make a difference? Are you going to put the time? The book's $20-some, $21 on Amazon right now. Masterclass, for a whole year of masterclass, it's a subscription. The entire year of masterclass will cost you less than one of our online courses. And we'd prefer that you take the masterclass before you take our online courses, because we're going to catch you at that level and we're going to move you forward. So if you're just starting out, the book and the masterclass and the community. The community we're building, it's just a very recent concept. We're bringing in people at all levels to help nurture each other, to practice it, to learn together, to be encouraged, to hear from people that are just like you. So the timing of your question is great, because that's the additional piece that we're adding to our learning journey for people who believe enough in themselves to learn. And not everybody does. I am on an airplane next to a gentleman who identified himself as the president of the American Medical Association. For a variety of reasons, I believe it was accurate. He asked me about my book because somebody in a plane asked me. They looked at me when we sat down. They said, "Hey, man, I want to tell you, I made $1 million based on what I read in your book." And this guy's sitting next to me, and before I tell him about the book, I want to know, has he ever invested in himself? President of the AMA. And I said, when was the last thing that you read to get better at anything? And he was like, no, other than, medical journals and medical data. I haven't read anything.
You would assume the answer would be, I read a book every week. Because
based on his position. But this guy at age 62, if he hasn't decided to read to get better by now, he's not going to. And by anybody's definition, he's a successful human being. And I looked at him, I said, I could tell you what the name of my book is, but you're not going to buy it because you don't like reading. And he said to me, "Hey, you're probably right."
Oh my gosh. At first I'd think maybe that's some reverse psychology, but at the end of the day, you're just shooting straight. You're just telling him, "Hey, why would I waste my time and waste your time telling you about a book you're not even going to read? Let's talk about something else."
Yeah. And I'm a candid guy. I want to know if you're open to learning, boy, you got my time all day long, or somebody on my team, because we got the people that work for me come in just looking, they're going to be an executive assistant. Suddenly they learn negotiation, their whole life gets better. It's kind of cool. Everybody's life is getting better using this stuff.
Yeah, it was interesting. There was an interview you did months ago with a couple of my friends, the Iced Coffee Hour, Jack and Graham, Stefan. I don't know if you remember. You were probably at their home in Vegas. And Jack, who I'm actually partners with on a real estate deal, has known I've been in real estate for a long time. And he asked me, what were your top 5 books that helped you out? And I said, Never Split the Difference was one of my top 3 that helped me out. And he said, okay, so you read the book. How did that help? And I go, here's how it helped. I got together with people. We role played, we practiced, and then we went out and did the thing out in real life. And we recognized that every little aspect of our life is a negotiation.
Yeah.
Spouse, our kids, people, our employees, our team members, everybody that we work with, our boss, whatever it may be, the person at the coffee stand. And they asked you a really great question. The question was, why should I learn how to negotiate? And your answer was so clear, but I have a follow-up question to it. Your answer was, everything is a negotiation. It will amplify everything in your life, right?
Yeah.
I think people that are trepid or afraid of stepping into learning how to negotiate and understand the dynamic of these relationships, I feel as if your book might scare them off because they think that they're going to be a used car salesman using one-liners to get people to do things that they don't want to do.
Right.
How does negotiation actually help people in their life? Not the person who's buying or negotiating on their behalf, but the person on the other side of the table. How is it helping that person in their life when I'm good at negotiating?
The underlying principles, the underlying values under the Black Swan method and everything that's in the book, Never Split the Difference, is for a collaborative long-term relationship of trust. So your heart's in the right place. Your intentions are good. Now you gotta walk the talk, if you will. But then, based on that, I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to work with you so we both get into a better place. And I'm trying to discover with you new ideas to make a better deal. There's never be so sure of what you want that you wouldn't take something better. Never be mean to somebody who could hurt you by doing nothing. There's always a better deal, and there's always a way for the other side to help you if they feel like it. And sometimes you help somebody just because you felt like it made you feel good. It made your day better. It puts you in a more positive frame of mind. Positive frame of mind tees you up for success. You're 31% smarter in a positive frame of mind. So why should you do nice things for other people? Because the likelihood that an important conversation is going to come your way and you're going to do a better job in it because you already got this positive collaborative vibe going where you're not trying to take from other people. You're just trying to collaborate with people. And then suddenly across the board, you're getting breaks nobody else gets. You get in a hotel room, nobody else gets. You get in the appointment, nobody else gets. When there wasn't supposed to be one. One of my staff negotiated, we needed a same-day appointment for my girlfriend at the consulate in New York because her passport was expiring, and there was a 15-day problem with her passport. Same day, if she didn't get it on a Tuesday after Martin Luther King holiday, then the international trip was off.
Really?
And we're calling and asking it for the Friday before the weekend. And she's calling the consulate, and everybody's calling on Friday before a 3-day weekend wants the first appointment Tuesday morning because their hair's on fire. And so this person is just getting battered all over the place. And initially, the person that my assistant calls, the woman says, well, the best we have is Thursday in Connecticut. We had to have Tuesday morning in New York or the trip is off. So Thursday by itself doesn't work. Connecticut doesn't work. This is ridiculous. My assistant didn't ask her to change it. What she did was she used empathy. A little bit, it's a variation of the same kind of empathy that you would have if you sat down in this person's house who was in agony. What are they going through? Don't ask for anything. Show that you understand what they're going through. My assistant says to this woman, boy, it seems like you've been getting beaten up today with nothing but people that are calling in, making demands, asking you to work miracles. And instantly, the woman's demeanor changes because that's what she's saying to herself.
Right.
She's saying all these people all these demanding jerks are calling in, expecting me to work miracles.
And now she feels seen.
Now, she said, yeah, now she doesn't know it, but her emotional system has just done a 180. And she says to my assistant, hold on. Let me put you on hold for a minute. She comes back online. She goes, 7:30 a.m. Tuesday morning.
Wow.
So my assistant didn't make a second ask. She didn't whine and complain. She didn't use facts, logic, and reason for the situation. She didn't point out to her how bad it was going to be for us if we didn't get it. Any of this nonsense. She said, boy, it seems like you've been getting beat up all day by demanding people that expect you to work miracles. And bang, the world has changed for both of them. Now, what would have happened if she hadn't got it? She'd have left that woman feeling better off, and she'd have known that we took our best shot, because empathy is always your best shot. It's not a guarantee of success. It just works more than anything else does. And it was like waving a magic wand. And in hindsight, I realized they probably double booked 7:30 a.m. on behalf of us, because there's no way that 7:30 a.m. slot wasn't already taken. The woman's looking at the line. She realizes 7:30 in the morning. Yeah, we can double book it. At 11 o'clock, we can't double book that because we already got 20 people standing around waiting around stamping their feet. But at 7:30, if she can get here early in the morning, yeah, we'd probably sneak her through with the group. So I'll just, double book the appointment. It'll be all right.
That's super interesting. You said also it's not a guarantee of success, right? Do you teach people that it's okay to fail in a negotiation and walk away losing?
Yeah, that's a great question. It is, because what you need to know is, could the deal have been made? And if you used empathy, then you realize the deal couldn't have been made. Like, I don't mind failing if I've given it, a good empathic approach. I hate not making deals I should have made. And you don't make a deal by putting in more time. You really make the deal or not by how you've applied empathy, how it's adapted, how the other person feels like you get it. And the only way they feel like you get it and decide whether or not they're going to wave a magic wand on your behalf is by making them feel it. You can't tell them. You can't say, I understand where you're coming from. Or
it seems too obvious. It seems like control.
Exactly. But very much, and like I'm going to continue to harken back to the word you used before we came on the air, the agony. If you know there's agony in your life, recognize it. Then now, that's a competitive advantage. Nobody else is saying that to them. Other people are walking in. They're still new. They're green, like you said. They're like, why do you feel this way? Somebody doesn't know, hasn't got the life experience. They've been getting hit by a lot of morons already. Trying to say, if you don't make this, you're going to lose a house in some kind of way. Trying to make them see what's going to happen if they don't make the deal, which is trying to take them hostage. But coming in and displaying just like, look, you got to be in agony now over this. Your dreams have been crushed. Nobody wants to lose their home. I can't imagine the agony. And if they're going to make the deal with anybody, they're going to make the deal with somebody that displays that kind of understanding.
So my first deal, if you don't mind, I'd like to tell you a quick 3 minutes. First deal I ever did was 12 years ago. I was a contractor, swinging hammers, had a big crew, and I was doing a lot of renovations for other people. And so people would hire me, they're fixing and flipping, and they would hire me and my crew to go and do all the work. Well, this lady took a liking to me. She said, Pace, you're not a contractor. You show up on time, you hit budgets, and you communicate. You should be anything but a contractor. And so she taught me.
The absurdity of that statement, by the way, is crazy, right?
So crazy, but she was right. And she taught me how to go generate leads. And she taught me to stop overthinking and just go take action. So what she did is she taught me, go send out mailers. It's going to land in people's houses. Those people are going to read that mailer. They're going to call you. And that mailer is going to say, I will buy your house for cash. And I told this lady who was mentoring me, I said, I don't have the cash. She goes, stop overthinking. Stop overthinking. Just do the thing and I'll walk you through it.
Yeah.
So she didn't teach me scripts. She didn't teach me what to say, how to value the properties or any of those things. But I got a lead that came in and it was a school teacher. And her name's Janie Munson. And she was in the process of retiring here in Arizona, moving to Oregon to go live with family members. And in the 40 years of her being an educator, she didn't have enough money to really renovate or keep up on the demand her house was giving her: roof, windows, you name it. So I go on the appointment. And as I'm going on the appointment, I call my mentor and I said, hey, this is the address. What should I offer the lady? Even though I don't even have the money, but what should I offer her? And Bethany, my mentor, says, give her $150,000 and not a penny more. I go, okay, great. I go into the appointment. Janie opens the door. I go in the kitchen and I look on the kitchen counter with her as we're building rapport. And I look on the kitchen counter, there's postcards, there's other mailers, there's business cards from all sorts of competition. And I looked right at Janie and I said, looks like you have a lot of help. What do you need from me? Like, what has kept you from selling your house so far? What are you looking for that these people couldn't give you? And she gave me a number. And she said, well, I'm a retiring school teacher and I have an offer from one of these people at $165,000. But I need more. This is my last asset, and I'm looking to get as much money as I possibly can. And I said, okay, great. Well, I know one thing. I can't help you. My mentor told me not to offer anything over a certain number. And this lady says, you're anchoring me, aren't you? And I didn't even know what anchoring meant 12 years ago. I said, no, I'm not anchoring you. I truly don't think I can help you. My offer is much lower. I think you should take the 165. And she says, okay, well, what do we do now? I go, I guess I leave. I didn't know. I didn't have a script or any framework. But as I was walking out of the house, I stopped and I said, hey, Janie, I'm a contractor. I have crews. And I always loved my school teachers. I loved Mrs. Heredia and Mrs. Rose, and I would stay after class and just help them. I just always loved my teachers. Is there anything I can do to help you? I've got these guys. I can help you box, your house up. I can help move your refrigerator. I can do whatever you need. And she goes, but you don't want to buy my house? I go, it's not that I don't want to buy your house, it's that I can't, but I can help you. And so she then tells me the weirdest thing, Chris. She says, I've got this weird problem in my backyard. Do you want to come look at it? I said, yeah. I go in the backyard and she shows me these bunnies that are the size of a 5-year-old child, 3 Flemish bunnies. There's these massive bunnies. And she says, I have these 3 bunnies my granddaughter brought home. I don't know how to afford them. They're $600 a month with vet bills and food and grooming, and I can't afford them anymore, but I want them to go to a family. So what I did is I called my mom, and my mom came to the house, picked up the bunnies, took them to my mom's little ranch, and my mom took the bunnies away. And the whole time the seller, Janie, is like, you're not going to give me an offer? I said, Janie, I told you I can't help you with the number, but I'll help you with the bunnies. So I leave. Janie gives me a hug. 2 weeks later, she calls me up and she says, hey, Pace, as you know, I'm a school teacher. I gave myself homework. And today I made the determination that I'm selling my house to you. And I'm like, I can't pay you $165,000, Janie. She says, yeah, but I met with 15 people before you and 15 people after you. And not one of them asked me how they could help. They all criticized my house. They beat up my hot water heater, criticized my single pane windows and my roof and all these things. And I decided that whatever your number is, I trust you. Now, this was the greatest lesson in real estate I ever learned. And then your book gets handed to me. And it lit my whole world up, that I felt like actually I was a weak negotiator my whole life. I felt like because I was trying to find and be empathetic with whoever situation it was, I felt like I was leaving a lot of money on the table, but I felt good about it. I felt great about how I was negotiating, and I didn't even realize I was negotiating in some weird way. But your book really resonated with me of learning how to be empathetic and understanding the other person rather than just trying to come in at a number. And your book really meant a lot to me. It meant so much to me, and I've shared it literally thousands of times. We've bought 500 plus books in our office, and we hand your book out all the time. Your book has meant so much to me.
Thank you.
My question is negotiation something that is meant to be better way to ask this question? Is negotiation something that you have the determined goal already set and that you are not malleable and massageable around that end result? And you say, this is what I want, or I'm not going to finish this transaction? Or do you suggest people take inputs as they go through the conversation and figure out how they find the best deal?
Yeah, I think it's it's impossible to know for sure what the best outcome is,
especially beforehand, right?
Yeah, because the other side is keeping stuff from you that if they told you would change everything, and you're actually holding stuff back that if the other side knew it, it would alter what they wanted, and that would change everything. But as human beings, we're taught to be goal oriented, and then we get very focused. We have blinders on. Again, never be so sure of what you want that you wouldn't take something better. So I prefer negotiation as an exploratory process. Now, yeah, there's certain minimums. There are constraints at certain points. Either you got so much money or you don't. That's a constraint, but it's a term. And does the other side feel like agreeing with you? There's a really good chance that there's at least a reasonable chance that your school teacher have been told to say, look, I got 165 on the table. You're going to have to come up with more than 165. And somebody that she thought was a great negotiator probably may have told her that, whether she has it or not. And then stick to it.
I actually never even thought about that until right now.
There's a reasonable chance that was the case. And it may also be true. But you got to explore the space. You got to find out if you can collaborate with somebody. You got to get somebody get a feel from you. She said she talked to 15 people before she talked to you and 15 people afterwards. She got a good hard look at who the hucksters, who the con artists, who the bullies, the lawyers, the liars, and the thieves were. So she ran across enough people to develop a great gut instinct for you. And it's all comparative. What did you say? How did you say it? You didn't blow smoke up in her direction. Like, I got a fair offer for you, or I got a generous offer for you. You said, like, look, what I have is less than that, and it's what I have. Also, the fact that you didn't come off that number no matter how much she, even though you didn't give the number, you didn't come off the concept. You came off as a straight shooter, and you said it to her enough times that her gut instinct told her that you were going to tell her the truth. So there was an exploratory discovery process between the two of you, more so on her side than on yours, because she had a lot of time with the lawyers, the liars, and the thieves on the other side, and she had enough data for her gut instinct to tell her that you were a straight shooter. And that's a little bit of the exploratory process. You didn't change your term, but you needed the exploratory process, at least for her to be able to make up her mind. And so your original question is, do you come in with a goal? Your goal should be something to exceed, not someplace to get to. It's a little bit like a goal in life. They're milestones. They're not endpoints. Are they gateways? More information. Explore the process. You had, even though you had one brief interaction with her, as I recall from your description, she had a lot of data, and it was a process that, for her, went through a period of time. And you gotta go through the process to find out if maybe the deal on the table is the best deal possible. Chances are it's not. Sometimes it is. Explore the process to find out whether or not it is, or whether or not you can improve it. More often than not, you can improve it.
Number one question I get every day is, how do I get everything done? I have 9 companies, 600 employees. We have customers all over the globe. We're doing fix and flips. We're doing buy and holds, apartments, RV parks, all of those things. Everybody wonders, how did I scale? How did I get to a higher level? And the answer is that, GoHighle. I use a CRM that allows all of my customers to come into one database. And instead of me hiring more employees to go and do all the follow-up, GoHighle has systems and automations that does all of that for me. So not only can I have my employees focus on higher end tasks, money-making tasks, GoHighle avoids all of the extra payroll. When you're brand new, having GoHighle is like having 5 different employees doing all the work for you just for a monthly fee. Go to GoHighle.com/pace to learn how I'm using it, not only in my lending business, but my wholesale business, my fix and flip business. Literally, GoHighle controls the entire back end of all 9 of my companies. Go to GoHighle.com/pace to learn more. Do you find that all people that you're negotiating with are lying or holding, maybe not outwardly lying, but they are holding something back?
There's a fair amount of fear-based deception. There's deception to victimize, and there's deception, the withholding of information, just as a defensive posture.
Like they're worried that you're going to take whatever they say as ammunition, use it back against them, and that's happened to them in the past. Therefore,
Exactly.
They don't want to give you the ammunition.
Yeah. What's the phrase? Once you've been bitten by a snake, you're afraid of ropes.
Oh, that's so good. We have a phrase in our community called buyers are liars and sellers are worse. And it's just because, reading your book and realizing that there's something always on the other side, right? You call it Black Swan. Right. And I call it the bunny, right? For me, before I read your book, I just told all my students, I said, go find the bunnies in the person's backyard. And
yeah, it's good. It's a good metaphor.
Right. Because it was the way I got my first deal. And our logo is literally the peace sign, which is bunny ears. And I told everybody, go find the bunnies. For you, is there a process that you teach your community to uncover the black swan and uncover these untruths or even these things that they're hiding from you?
Yeah, and it's, we've got a set of 9 skills, and several of them are sort of unique, based for specific strategy in a moment. Like if somebody's engaging in really negative behavior, there's something called an I message that throws up a barrier to that behavior. But in the meantime, the exploratory process is driven around mostly what we refer to as labels and mirrors. A label is it seems like, it sounds like, it looks like. My assistant on the phone with the person at the consulate in New York said it seems like you spent the whole day getting beat up by demanding people who are expecting you to work miracles. That's a label that's been guided by the data that she got in the conversation. The woman sounded like she spent the day getting beat up. Context is Friday. We're looking for Tuesday morning. Monday's a federal holiday. It's a weekend. Anybody calling on a Friday looking for Tuesday is going to be beat up and demanding. Then you're adding the context of the moment to refine your label. But a label can be as simple as it seems like you have a reason for saying that. That's a way to start to excavate the process, find out what's going on behind. Seems like you're in a hurry. It seems like something bothered you just now. Seemed like something just crossed your mind.
And you say something like that, and then you pause immediately after.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh. Dynamic silence. A label is an emotional, intelligent observation. You got to let it sink in. And it can take up to 6 seconds, which can be an excruciatingly long period of time to keep your mouth shut. But for that label to sink in.
People that haven't done this before, it's so awkward, right?
Yeah. Oh, incredibly awkward. Incredibly bountiful in the amount of results. Silence, the yield of information and trust that comes from silence is huge. But as you pointed out, after you label, you got to shut up for maybe as long as 6 seconds. Some people can't shut up for 2. Then the other skill that's great at excavating, exploring the space is what we refer to as a mirror, which is just a repetition of probably the last 3 words of what the person said. Just repeat 1 to 3 words. Could be the last 3 words, or if they said something in the middle of the conversation that you want to say, tell me more about that, well, you just mirror the 3 essential words, and they will tell you more about it.
Have any example about that?
An example about that?
Like, do you have an example of how to use those 3 words? Anything an example you could come to mind? You're maybe I'm negotiating with a seller, and the seller says something along the lines of, well, I'm not going to make a decision on who to sell my house to until I have 4 more quotes from other people, right? Do you extract something that they just said in that statement and mirror and pull those words out and then rehearse them to them? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, you do, and that's what I just did to you. I mirrored an example.
Oh my gosh!
And then you gave me a very thorough answer. And if I'd have said, instead, if I'd have gone like, what do you mean by that? You're going to like an example. You just repeated the question over louder.
Yeah.
But what you did instead was you gave me a really thorough, full context answer, comfortably. And that's exactly how that works.
Gosh, that was so smooth. I didn't even realize you were doing it.
Ain't nothing like demonstrating it for the people, right? Show them what it looks like.
So good.
Act it out.
Have you ever had a deal or a negotiation that was going really, really poorly, and then you finally got a piece of information that changed everything, and you were able to get the deal done?
Yeah, that happens all the time, but it's really driven by what's causing it to go poorly. Like, is the other person really, really difficult? I said before, the best chance of success. Ballpark terms, we refer to those people as 7%ers, the people you're never going to make the deal with. Hostage negotiators are successful roughly 93% of the time, which means 7% of the time we're not going to come to an agreement with the bad guy. And then the proposition is, all right, if we expect there to be a percentage, is there a set of behaviors that they will exhibit where we can figure out sooner rather than later that they're a 7%er? And in point of fact, there is. So if I get a difficult negotiation going, I'm going to be looking for those behaviors early on. And when you're willing to accept that those behaviors will be there, then they just leap out at you. What might those behaviors look like? If somebody's really focused on one term, there's a pretty good chance they're playing you off against somebody else. And they need that term in order to play you off.
This is so critically important for my audience, is what you just said. because why I say buyers are liars and sellers are worse is because sellers, like I swear to you, the lady who is the best liar is the lady who's lived the longest life. I swear it's like the 70 and 80-year-old ladies that are like Grandma Smith. You go to their house and they have cookies ready for you. It's the greatest liar on the planet.
Uh-huh.
And what they typically do in my business is they get so hyper-focused on the price. Whereas in our business, there's multiple types of terms. When are you moving out?
Yep.
How much down payment do you want?
Yeah.
All of those. There's all sorts of terms, just like any other industry. And you'll get them so hyper-focused on the price. And then what ends up happening is they're taking your number and they're playing you against 10 other investors. And then they get what they want from the other investors and they ghost you and you just go away.
Yeah, exactly.
And so a lot of people in my industry will ask me, what do I do when these grandmas or these people, doesn't always have to be a grandma, but these 7%ers that are focusing on that thing, is there a way to mitigate that situation? Or am I stuck because it's the 7%er that's just going to play me against the rest of the field?
Well, there's a label in order to smoke it out a little bit.
Good.
And so they're still shopping around in their mind. They are, in fact, playing you off somebody else, but they may not realize that's what they're doing. They feel they're shopping around. So the label would be, it sounds like you're still shopping around. And it sounds like you're shopping around.
Yeah.
That's an accusation. Delivery, you need it to land gently. And the curious question lands softly. And so, sounds like you're still shopping around? And you're going to see, like, they don't even have to admit at that point in time. If they stop and wait for a really long time, they are. And they're trying to decide whether or not to tell you. So, and then the follow-up is like, look, when I qualify as somebody that you trust and you're willing to make a commitment with me, I'll give you all the time you need. But as you're still shopping around, I realize I don't qualify as somebody you trust. So when I do, call me back. I'll be happy to come back and talk.
Gosh, that's so good. I don't qualify as somebody you trust. Call me back. Oh my gosh. How are you applying that to a negotiation? And like, let's say an FBI negotiation, you have somebody stuck on terms. Are you doing something similar along those lines of like, hey, it sounds like you're not ready to negotiate?
Well, if it were some sort of hostage situation and we're being played, yeah, I'm going to hit them with that exactly. Because either consciously or unconsciously, that's where they are. And I need to know if I can get them out of it. And since they've given me the data to be able to make that observation, you're making observations based on data they're giving you. And you're not making accusations. And you're not doing it right off the bat because they haven't given you any data yet. But you're allowed to make observations of information behaviors that they have displayed to you. You just don't do it in an accusatory, attacking way. But you're allowed to say, hey, this is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm hearing. Here's the math. What's wrong with my math is effectively what you're doing because you're being deferential the whole time. And you're basing it based on the words and the behaviors that they are sharing with you. So it makes it fair game because they've shared it.
So interesting. It's interesting that people will get stuck in a negotiation because they, one, are not identifying what's happening with the prospect or the suspect or whoever it is on the other side. And they're trying to cram just a sales pitch down this person's throat the whole entire time when they would just ask or, make something aware. You had a bunch of other skills you were going through. I think you got through 2 or 3 of the skills. What are those other skills that you guys are teaching out of the 9?
Yeah, well, it's going to sound like noise for me to throw them all out, but they are paraphrasing, summarizing, dynamic silence, understanding when to stay quiet, a tool we call calibrated questions, which is really how to shape someone's thinking primarily through the use of what and how. iMessages, minimal encouragers, go on, those sorts of things that people feel encouraging. And then, of course, tone is critical. You can say the wrong stuff with the right tone. And I have demonstrated a couple of times, hesitating. Sounds like you're still shopping around. That tone is the way I delivered that with a tone of curiosity, genuine curiosity. Genuine curiosity is irresistible. And
what do you think about like a Trump negotiation style, right? When I look at those skills that you're talking about, I'm like, man, I don't know what that guy, I think he's either genius or he's a lunatic or maybe a little bit both. Does he have a style that is easy to emulate? And can you, Chris, watch Trump and see what he's doing when he's negotiating?
Well, I got to tell you, I have become so distrustful of any media portrayal of him and his style, because whatever the media is, 80 to 90% of the media hates him, so their portrayal is going to be colored by that. The remaining part of the media, they love him. Their portrayal is going to be colored by that. The thing that really strikes me about him is it looks like when you sit down and talk with him in person, he's very genuine. And, different interesting things happen that just fascinate me. Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, they're lobbing grenades at each other. They're throwing rocks at each other in the media. Horrible. Calling each other names. Looks really bad. Trudeau goes and meets with them in person, and now we got an understanding, which was part of Trudeau's problem. Canada wanted to make Trump the enemy. And suddenly now that it looks like he can work with them on whatever things they've been fighting about publicly, now suddenly Canada doesn't want to back him up anymore, and they want to throw him out of office. But on a consistent and regular basis, people that go down and sit with him in person and talk to him on a personal level seem to be able to make deals.
Yeah.
And so it's really difficult to try to assess what's he like as a negotiator through the media. I caught a clip the other day that they're talking about opening negotiations with the Iranians, and he's given an interview on it looked like it was Air Force One, and they said, you're going to negotiate through intermediaries. You're like, no, I don't want to negotiate through intermediaries because messages tend to get screwed up. I want direct negotiations with them, right? So that's a sign of genuine approach. And then he said some of the effect of, and it looks like that they're afraid to talk directly with me, and I don't want them to feel that way. And I'm like, he's talking about he cares about how people feel. Like, come on. Like, CNN. This just in from CNN. Donald Trump cares how you feel. But that was what he said when he was unfiltered.
Yeah.
So, I haven't had the opportunity to be in the room with him while he's negotiating. And I'm hesitant to say anything critical. And what I'm reading between the lines is he in person, he's probably phenomenal.
What I pick up on is, if I'm looking at you on an FBI negotiation side of things and then comparing it to what I believe Trump does, is I believe Trump is very genuine once they get to the negotiation, but he's kind of flushing them out with some other activity, right? Whether it's calling them name or lobbying jokes or whatever it is. I imagine even as an FBI negotiator, you have to do things to get people on the phone, right? That may not be always in the best interest of the genuine conversation. It might be, sending somebody in the building with a gun to, show them you're serious in order for them to get you on the phone or what have you. I feel like that's kind of his style, which is, I'm going to get you on the phone and I'm going to get you in a mental state that we are both ready to negotiate, and I'm serious when we get to that point. Did you ever have to do stuff like that as an FBI negotiator, where you had to cause a stir or cause a disruption in order for somebody to actually get on the phone and negotiate with you?
Well, there's two issues. Do you ever have to, and then do you do it all the time? And then to what degree do you do it? And what behavior is the other side demonstrating? Like, anytime anybody's throwing rocks back and forth with Trump, if they're in a rock fight publicly, the other person probably threw the first rock. He doesn't have a tendency to throw the first rock. He responds in very significant and clear and unmistakable and almost overwhelming ways, but he doesn't throw the first rock. So there was some negative behavior from the other side first with him. Analogous in hostage negotiation. we got a guy on the inside who ain't answering the phone, and we got to get him on the phone. Now, we found that if they're in their own house and they won't come to the phone, then we know if we go break our window, he's probably going to pick up the phone to yell at us. But that's a conversation that's been started. Now, it started because of his behavior to begin with, and I'm talking about breaking our window. Now, I got a recording where a SWAT team got out of control and they started breaking every window in the house. It's not what we said we wanted to do. It's an absolutely hysterical audio, because the guy calls in from the outside and he goes like, somebody just threw a tree through my window. Like, what's wrong with you people? You know, the barricaded guy is legitimately asking us, what is our problem? And that's what made it absurd. So, you know, let's not get crazy with the tactic, and let's make sure it's appropriate to the situation. There's some context. Did we ever do anything that might be negative in a tiny, tiny little way, and it was based on behavior that the other side was already engaging in?
Interesting. I mean, obviously, you're not going to go break a window if somebody's picking up the phone, right? So you're waiting for them, whether it's an action they took or an action they didn't take. It's basically, a symbol of where they are.
Yeah.
On the side of terms, right? You've mentioned terms a couple of times. Is there a set list of terms that are in every negotiation, or is it dynamic from industry to industry?
A lot of people think there's a set list of terms. And the short answer is, if you're a B-level negotiator, there's a set list of terms. But if you're an A player and you really truly believe, never be so sure of what you want that you wouldn't take something better, there's a pretty good chance the other side has the ability to offer you something that would change everything. And if you start with that hypothesis, then your terms at least become more flexible in a range. Like you'll take less money for better marketing, for actual references, actual introductions, actual guarantees of other business. There's a price that you won't take on a one-off, but you would take it if it was a 5-year guarantee. So there's almost always a way. There's a way to make the terms better if you can get into an exploratory process. The terms have flexibility, and they're dynamic. They work together. So, and the more set you are in the terms, the more average a negotiator you are. You won't get fired, but you ain't going to be making the bonuses the people around you are making because you're average.
That's such a powerful statement. How do you go from a B to an A? Is it reading the book, going to the master class, joining your guys' community? How do I go from a B to an A negotiator?
Yeah, you educate yourself, and then you start being willing to experiment with it in real life. And if you look at all conversations as opportunities to learn better collaboration, then you're experimenting with people all the time. You know, I'm talking to a Lyft driver. You know, how do I get the Lyft driver to open up to me? I'm talking, am I on a first name basis with the guy at Starbucks where I go to get coffee, or the people in the grocery store recognize me because I lit them up, made them feel better in the moment. You get into that practice. I'm going through TSA. You know, I'm throwing verbal observations at the guys in TSA just to stay sharp in the skills. And then you find it. You know, habits accumulate. You just got to get started. Bad habits accumulate. Good habits accumulate. Emotional intelligence accumulates if you work at it. Don't look to make quantum leaps. Just look to get a little bit better every day. And if you look to get a little bit better every day, in 3 weeks, you're going to be really good.
Do you feel like most people on the opposite side of the negotiation come to the table with their best foot forward, or do they come reserved and protected?
Yeah, reserved and protected. For a variety of reasons, people are mostly fear-driven. It's the way we're wired as human beings. Then you start layering, you know, did their girlfriend yell at them the day before? Did they get a good night's sleep? Did they eat well? Did they party last night? Did they celebrate with friends? Which means they're going to be more tired today. They had a great day yesterday, but, you know, what was the accumulation? Did they see something in the news when they were scrolling their feed that made them mad? So There are all these things, and a colleague pointed out to me today that the media, social media in particular, but the general media has seen that we're addicted. We love to hate.
Why is that?
I don't know. But the media has found out the more stirred up we can get us, the more angry they can make us, the more clicks they get, the more views they get, the more likes they get.
It is interesting, Mr. Voss. On my YouTube channel, we've tested this multiple times. We'll get 3 million, 4 million views a month. But when I go and do something emotionally stirring that is intentionally dividing between, let's say, Democrats and Republicans, and I talk about real estate policy and how it protects landlords versus tenants, my views 10x. Now, it doesn't bring the clientele I want, obviously, but it's crazy the clicks that I get, the comments I get, the engagement I get. And so what ends up happening is there's this divide in my mind of, do I keep chasing that or do I go after my ideal client? Now I'm an adult, so I understand. Go after your ideal client, give them the content they want that brings them to you. But that is crazy. Like, people truly do love to hate. It's almost like a tribal instinct to, like, our tribe versus their tribe type of thing. Which means that people are coming to the table to negotiate with you with that tribal mentality of it's me versus you. And if I relent or I give you a piece of information, you're going to take advantage of me. So you have to do what in order to disarm that? What's the best way to disarm that kind of stuff?
Well, the awareness and the demonstration of the understanding of it. Again, this gets back to effectively the accusations audit that we were talking about earlier. What's the predictable negatives? And then you start taking emotionally educated guesses. And they're going to start giving you data and information right away as soon as you start talking to them. And then if you look at the context, you're looking for service from a government employee on a Friday before a 3-day weekend, and your hair's on fire. And it's Friday. They've been getting beat up all day long.
There's some predictable negatives in that situation.
You got a lot of data to expect those negatives. And then when they come on the phone with you and they start giving you tone of voice that backs that data up, now bang, you got all this great stuff to work with if you would just see it.
I love it. Now, final question. We've been here hanging out for an hour. I appreciate you spending the time with us, and my audience loves you. We've been suggesting you for a long time, and you've made me a lot of money. You've made me have better relationships. You've made me even be able to communicate with my wife and my kids in a different way, which has been awesome.
Cool.
Thank you for everything you do. Do you feel as if everybody can become a better negotiator, or is it only a select few that actually can become somebody special in the negotiation field?
No, everybody's got it in them. It's going to be your decision. How coachable do you want to be? How afraid are you of making mistakes? Is a mistake a penalty, or is a mistake a learning accelerator? Can you delight in the mistakes when you realize they're learning accelerators? That's the question. I will tell you, you come to the Black Swan group. We got join the community, and look at the range of people that are succeeding. You're going to find people that look just like you, that have decided, you know what, I could learn this. I could have fun doing it. I'm going to put in the time. And you can. That's all you got. You just got to decide you can do it. The self-fulfilling prophecy, as they say.
Love it. Now, if people want to get in there, collaborate with other people inside the community that have been trained by you inside the Black Swan group, where do they go?
Just go to the website, blackswanltd.com, BlackSwanLtd.com. The information is going to be right there. If you can't find it, email us at info@blackswanltd.com. Somebody will get back to you.
Appreciate you, Mr. Chris Voss. Thank you for all you do for all of us in our industry and all the industries across the country. You are incredible. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me on.
If you're listening to this podcast, chances are you're a business owner or an aspiring business owner, and you probably wonder, where am I getting my merch? All of my friends ask me, Pace, where are you getting your merch? Your hoodies, your hats, your flannels, your t-shirts, everything that you're wearing, where are you getting it? It's obviously not cheap. It's obviously designed well and designed to last. And the answer is Branded Bills. You have not seen me wear anything but Branded Bills in the last 8 years since I found this company. They're incredible. Made in America, customized in America, designed in America, shipped from America. Branded Bills is the only company I choose to put my brand on because my brand is quality and so are they. Go to brandedbills.com/PaceMorby to get my gear or customize your own by uploading a logo, telling them what you want, having them ship it directly to you or to your customers. That's brandedbills.com/PaceMorby.